one tonight, and yeah, probably like just a little update kind of thing, an addendum, as I like to call them. But yeah, yesterday we covered the Bandar Abbas thing over on PrepperNow, and that video is floating and doing what it's doing. And then the rest of it, we were tabulating and we got it all together. India and Pakistan are now directly fighting. Now, it's not major fights or anything like that. It's just kind of skirmishes up in Kashmir area on the border, but has expanded a little bit. And we're kind of at a critical all of that. So I am going to cover that, of course, and let you know. I know this is kind of a strange time for me to be going, but I want to see how this evolves because it is really problematic, and I mean it's important to cover it, and we just have to see where everything goes. Nuclear powers having border disputes and firing at each other, that's a little bit different than a couple of countries in South America that are sitting there, you know, fighting over some jungle territory or something like that. This is possibly dangerous. Now, it currently seems to be semi-okay, but they are making moves that if it does expand and escalate, they can handle it accordingly, with even one minister of Pakistan threatening and saying, hey, we have nuclear weapons, and they're not just for decoration. So these two countries have a long history of hating each other. Many geopolitical analysts have said that this is the first area where a nuclear exchange will happen. They are not, you know, America and China and Russia with the kind of nuclear weapons they have, but they can definitely get them over the border. So we're going to have to see where it all goes, and we're going to cover it here because it is geopolitical and it is important. That's what we do here on the Crisis Report. So we appreciate you being here. Got a few new subscribers over from pushing it out on PrepperNow, and we hope you will hit that like button, do the subscribe thing, join us. You will get all this on the preppernow.substack.com, which has all the links and tells you all kinds of information, like if anything were to ever happen to this channel, where the cursor is going is where you will be going. That channel is growing ever so slightly, so just be cognizant of it. I do have plans for it over the summer, so we're just kind of keeping it in a slight growth there every once in a while kind of pattern, and then things are going to change, okay? All right, folks, on that note, let's get started with the Crisis Report for April 27th, 2025. Here we go. Apple is going to move production to India. Financial Times reports that Apple is planning to shift the assembly of all U.S.-sold iPhones to India as soon as next year in an attempt to pivot away from China. This is something being pushed by the Trump administration. We are definitely aligning with China more for manufacturing and trying to get away from China because we have a lot of problems that are starting to brew in the background. Military with anti-drone equipment is now protecting the Pope's funeral. We had the Pope's funeral yesterday. Trump and Zelensky had a conversation in the Vatican. They were also joined by Keir Starmer and Macron and other people, where it's just kind of an impromptu, we're all here in the same room, let's talk kind of thing. Sorry, no whoosh today. This is coffee time. Excuse me. Over 200,000 people attended the Pope Francis funeral in Vatican. Trump blasted Putin, saying he's just tapping me along. He doesn't want to stop the war. There's no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas, cities and towns. Over the last few days, it makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and has to be dealt with differently, though banking or secondary sanctions. Too many people are dying. Donald Trump, U.S. President. Trump's comments follow the New York Times article, which followed the Trump, Starmer, Macron, Zelensky talks at the Vatican. War between Pakistan and India. That's our big topic today. Heavy exchange of fire between Pakistan Army and the Indian forces in the Lipa Valley, Azad, Jammu, and Kashmir. It's the northwest of the country, and it is just an area where there's a lot of gray. Everybody wants it, and yeah, China's up around there too. So it's they're not. Yeah, it's a very contentious area. North Korea strengthens total control over its citizens. North Korean Ministry of Social Welfare has expanded its surveillance of the population, increasing surveillance and pressure on citizens, as if it could get any worse. Previously limited to document checks, agency now regularly visits homes under the guise of briefings and uses informants to monitor people's daily lives. Patrols on the duty in each district and information about citizens' behavior, contacts, and purchases is passed on to the higher-ups. The control system was strengthened after Rona and has now become a permanent part of life, instilling fear and destroying trust between neighbors. It'd be terrible if that were to happen here in the West, if they were to use AI to do such things, but we know they would never do that. Third round of U.S.-Iran talks has been held, according to reports in the talks, to resolve the crisis surrounding Iran's nuclear program. The delegations were able to clarify some details regarding the expectations of both sides regarding the future agreement. U.S. has officially accepted Iran's red lines regarding its ballistic missile program. Special Envoy Witkoff formally acknowledged Iran's right to continue its development of all conventional defense capabilities as it sees fit. China seizes a disputed Sandy Cay reef in the South China Sea. This is just kilometers from the Philippines' military outpost, and it's a big one at Thitu Island. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has condemned hecklers who booed the Welcome to Country at Anzac Day dawn services and says those responsible need to face the full force of the law. And one person gave a little color and said they're making it illegal to boo in the free world. Part of the benefits of going at night is I don't get all the update texts and everything else. So when I'm doing it in the morning during the day when there's things, I get a lot of bells and stuff. So just bear with me. U.S. air campaign against the Houthis. CENTCOM spokesperson Dave Eastburn said on April 24th that CENTCOM has struck over 800 Houthi targets, including command and control sites, air defense systems, and advanced weapons production sites since the start of the U.S. air campaign on March 15th. Eastburn said that the strikes have killed hundreds of Houthi fighters and numerous Houthi leaders. Eastburn stated that Houthi ballistic missiles launches have decreased by 87%, and Houthi drone attacks have decreased by 65% since the start of the CENTCOM airstrike campaign. U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, has conducted at least 28 airstrikes targeting Houthi infrastructure and leadership in Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen since 2 p.m. Eastern, April 24th. CENTCOM conducted at least 7 airstrikes targeting Houthi infrastructure, including launch sites, weapons depots in Masjar and Magdal districts, Marib Governorate, which are less than 50 kilometers behind the front lines in Maghrib Governorate. CENTCOM also conducted at least 11 airstrikes targeting Houthi sites in Bajil district, at Al Salif port, and Kamaran Island in Hudaydah Governorate. CENTCOM reportedly struck Houthi weapons depots and launch sites in Al-Hama, Manaka, Bani Hashish, and Harib Nib districts in Sana Governorate. J. Flo, thank you so much. Monthly home value growth is now negative in every major Florida metro, including Miami, showing there is a pressure in the home market that is starting to evolve. There's a great deal of confusion circulating right now about the Indus Waters Treaty, following reports that India has moved to suspend its implementation. In light of this development, it's important to clarify what the treaty actually is, how it works, and what this move does and does not mean in practice. So here it is. Indus Waters Treaty, signed in 1960 with the facilitation of the World Bank, has long been considered one of the most durable water-sharing agreements in modern history. It governs the division of the Indus River system between India and Pakistan. Under the treaty, India has rights over the eastern rivers, the Ravi, Beas, and Sutlej, while Pakistan has access to the western rivers, Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab. India is allowed a limited use of the western rivers primarily for non-consumptive purposes such as hydropower, but is not permitted to store or divert these waters in a way that harms downstream flow to Pakistan. However, it's important to clarify that India is not entirely excluded from using the western rivers. Treaty permits India to use up to 20% of their flow for specific purposes, including irrigation, power generation, and navigation. These uses are strictly regulated to ensure minimal impact on Pakistan's share. In addition, both countries maintain rights related to drainage issues, river conservation, and ecological management. Disputes over new projects are handled through treaty mechanisms such as neutral expert review or international arbitration, not through unilateral decision making. With this in mind, the announcement of a suspension does not mean India is now physically cutting off water to Pakistan. That is both technically and politically unfeasible at this stage. India currently lacks the infrastructure required to block or significantly reduce water flows on the western rivers. Projects like the Kishanganga and Radal, often mentioned in the context, are hydroelectric in nature, not storage projects. Any future infrastructure capable of altering flow on a strategic scale would take years to build and would face not only engineering and environmental challenges, but also legal and international scrutiny. The move should therefore be understood not as an operational shift, but as a political signal of foreign pressure, retaliation in the context of the recent events. For Pakistan, however, the stakes are high. The Indus system provides the backbone of the country's agriculture, drinking water, and economy. Around 20% of their GDP depends on it. Any suggestion of interference with that system understandably raises alarm. As for China, while the Indus technically originates in Tibet, it plays no direct role in the treaty and has no significant control over the river's flow as it enters India. Claims that China is blocking the Indus are unfounded and largely serve as disinformation. In short, it does not, at least for now, translate into a disruption of water flow. What we're seeing is a new pattern that hasn't been observed before, but the suspension, it's more of a political move than a practical one. For now, situation is more about signaling than immediate action, as the infrastructure needed to affect water flows just doesn't exist yet. Still, the escalation could be dangerous, and it's something to watch closely. That is from Geo Insider, and that tells you everything you need to know about this. So the cutting off the water, it's not like they've got a dam and they hit the switch and it stops and all of a sudden Pakistan doesn't have any water. That's not what it is. Like he said, it's more of a political thing. China is in there, but again, they don't have really any way to stop it either. But what if we were to see China to go up there and to build one of their hydroelectrics or whatever, their dams, and they just stop the water and divert it or something? Yes, they've got the ability to do so. It would take a lot of time. I'm just saying, in the future, if you're to see that, you can see some problems with it. But right now, this is more of a political move when it pertains to the air quotes cutting off of the water to Pakistan from India in the Indus River Valley. It's more of a political thing. It's still flowing. They don't have a way to stop it. However, it could portend major other problems. So here we go. I would imagine getting 80% of your water cut off, if that really were to happen, you'd already see weapons flying. Over 1,500 people have been injured and more than 300 killed in explosions at Shahid Raji Port. That 300 number is disputed. That's all disputed. Now, I don't know if this guy's got information that's better than mine, but most of the other ones are not anywhere in the hundreds. Now, could it be? Absolutely. It could end that way. And this guy might be right and just ahead of the game. But as it pertains to other trusted sources, there's multiple that dispute that and say it's more around 30 to 50 killed and about 500 to 1,000 injured. But we'll see. So it's all going to go up. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian held phone calls with the prime ministers of India and Pakistan to discuss regional security, recent terrorist attacks, and to call Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India and Pezeshkian strongly condemned the deadly terror attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, expressed condolences to the victims, emphasized the need for regional cooperation against terror. In the conversation with Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Iranian president expressed deep sorrow over recent incidents and called for enhanced regional cooperation to combat terrorism and dismantle terrorist groups' financial and arms infrastructure. He also offered Iran's readiness to assist in reducing tensions and resolving misunderstandings between India and Pakistan. Both calls heightened Iran's emphasis on peace, security, and calm in the region, and Pakistan affirming its commitment to fight terror and welcoming Iran's constructive role in easing regional tensions. Former employee of the Arizona Department of Agriculture under Governor Katie Hobbs has been arrested at the southern border for allegedly smuggling in new neighbors. Nuclear-armed India is preparing for military retaliation following a deadly terror attack in Kashmir. Jeffrey Steenepp, survivor Juliet Bryant, says victims are being quietly eliminated one by one and are now living in constant fear. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers' administration has directed all state employees to assist illegal immigrants in invading ICE. New York Times, citing an anonymous source, reports that the massive port explosion in Iran was caused by sodium perchlorate. I said that wrong yesterday on PrepperNow. Perchlorate, chemical often used in rocket propellants and explosives. Female passenger on a Southwest Airlines flight to Chicago allegedly got naked and pooped on her seat as the plane was landing. I'm going to read that one again. A female passenger on a Southwest Airlines flight to Chicago allegedly stripped down naked, jumped up onto her seat, and laid out a nice big fresh dookie right as it was landing. I think there's a little bit of a divide for mental health now going on in the world from all this craziness. Just saying. I don't even know where to go with that one. Wisconsin Judge Monica Isham threatens to suspend court hearings, shield new neighbors in her courtroom, and raise bail money for defendants. Fire her. Ballistic missile launched at Israel by the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen was successfully intercepted by air defense earlier this morning, military says. IDF says the missiles were shot down before crossing the country's borders. There are no reports of injuries or damage in the attack. Sirens had sounded in several towns in the Dead Sea area. Russian Federation's Army Chief of Staff, Valery Gerasimov, confirms that North Korean soldiers participated in Russian operations in Kursk border areas, announced the completion of the missions in the border area. Such a fact was repeatedly refused and denied by pro-Russian channels, despite evidence provided by the Ukrainian side of the presence of North Korean People's Army soldiers in Kursk. Gerasimov says DPRK soldiers performed combat missions shoulder to shoulder with Russian Federation soldiers. It happens just weeks after Chinese volunteers to Russian side were taken as POWs fighting in the Donbas. Russian Chief of Staff Valery Gerasimov says Russia has completely recaptured areas in the Kursk region that were under Ukrainian control, claims Ukraine lost more than 76,000 soldiers in Kursk, and the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense denies the Russian statement, says they don't reflect reality, as combat operations in Kursk remain ongoing. So, typical fog of war crap. Government sources have confirmed the Indian Express that a military option is being prepared in response to the Pahalgam attack, with operational planning and force posture adjustments underway. Current planning could involve the use of standoff weaponry launched from Indian territory, with target selection still being finalized. New Delhi continues to directly attribute responsibility to Pakistan, including senior leadership figures such as the Pakistan Army Chief. Based on the available information, it is reasonable to assess the cruise and ballistic missile options are being actively considered. Iranian authorities order the immediate evacuation of the Bandar Abbas port and neighboring villages as the fires and toxic smoke continue to expand. Israel refuses to comment directly on the powerful explosion that occurred at the port of Bandar Abbas in southern Iran. We are at a time when the region is taking shape. We are prepared in defense and prepared for any development, senior Israeli military aide said. Geo Insider, Twitter. According to multiple reports, clashes between Pakistani and Indian forces have now spread to the Samakhni and Neelam areas along the line of control. Samakhni is a key valley sector in the south, while Neelam is a mountainous region in the north. Fighting now covers multiple sectors, indicating a broader escalation compared to previous nights. This is day 3, and the fighting is expanding. Pakistani forces have deployed various artillery weapons and tanks on the Indian border amid rising tensions. Approximately 20 USA-made 155mm M109A2 SPH or self-propelled howitzers can be seen among the deployed weapons. Hours ago, local media reported heavy exchange of fire. Pakistani Army and Indian Army clash in the Lipa Valley, disputed Jammu and Kashmir. Night of April 26th and April 27th, 2025, Pakistani Army posts initiated small arms fire across the line of control in the areas opposite Tutmari Gali and Rampur sectors. Our troops responded effectively with appropriate small arms fire. Pakistan accused India of attacking the civilian population and reported that its forces responded with artillery fire against Indian Army positions in the Lipa Valley. So far, neither side has reported casualties or material losses. Due to the operational silence, information from the ground remains scarce, making independent verification of events difficult. Pakistan's defense minister says, I don't think the escalation with India will develop into an exchange of nuclear strikes. So that's good. Thank you, Mr. Defense Minister. Initial reports on social media about several killed and over a dozen injured after a man in an SUV plowed into a closed-off street filled with people celebrating the Lapu Lapu Festival. This happened in Vancouver. I hear that Mr. Trudeau is working up a package to ban vehicles because assault vehicles are everywhere. And, you know, for a safe Canadian society, you have to ban all of the assault vehicles. They will, however, offer Uber and other rideshare services to everybody, so they need to get where they're going, all for a nice small fee. So they're going to hopefully I'm just kidding. It's not true. But any chance to make fun of Trudeau I take. Iranian Interior Minister, we will announce the cause of the Raji port explosion, whatever it may be, where it will take legal action against those responsible. The port's main systems were not damaged. Customs operations are continuing. We hope to extinguish the fire within the next few hours. There's a possibility that the number of victims and injured will rise, and they will. American ships, both military and commercial, should be allowed to travel free of charge through the Panama and Suez canals. Those canals would not exist without the United States of America, according to President Trump. Death toll from yesterday's explosion at Iran's Rajeh port has risen to 25, with more than 1,139 injured. Fire is still going. India's aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, has returned to its home base in Katawar for unspecified reasons. Shortly after it was deployed to the Arabian Sea, Pakistan's railway minister, Hanif Abbasi, says Pakistan's nuclear missiles are not for decoration. They have been made for India. Direct threat from Pakistan Railway Minister Hanif Abbasi. Indian Prime Minister Modi, enemies of India and Kashmir were not happy with the return of peace to the region and want to destroy Kashmir again. Indian Navy has conducted anti-ship missile firings to showcase combat readiness. Iranian Ministry of Defense says there were no military use cargoes at Raji port. Oh, shit. Excuse me. World Food Program, 2 million people in Gaza were entirely dependent on food aid, and the situation is on the verge of collapse. Building of Pakistan's High Commission in London was attacked and window glasses were broken a day after Indian protesters held a demonstration outside the building. Death toll from Raji port explosion in Bandar Abbas is now 36. Not 150 like the one guy said, 36. U.S. Secretary of State Rubio says next week we will be crucial in talks to reach an agreement to stop the war in Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Rubio also said that Ukraine and Russia are generally closer to peace deal than in the past 3 years. A peace deal needs to happen soon, and we did not impose sanctions on Russia because we hope to bring the conflicting parties closer together. Trump said that when tariffs cut in, many people's income taxes will be substantially reduced, maybe even completely eliminated. China's Huawei has developed a new AI chip seeking to match NVIDIA, according to the Wall Street Journal. Comes just weeks after the U.S. restricted NVIDIA's H20 chip sales to China. And troops from Pakistan and India have exchanged fire in disputed Kashmir for a third night in a row. Officials said Sunday as relations between the nuclear-armed rivals plunged to their lowest level in years. And that, my friends, is your morning crisis report. All this can be found on the Substack, PrepperNow.substack.com. And if this place ever goes away, up here is where you need to go, okay? That is the backup. That's the burner, okay? So, yes, I'm crazy and have a burner. So, that is the, well, I'm a prepper, so redundancy is a big thing for me. But hopefully you're having a great weekend. Thanks to JFlo for the Finsky. Really appreciate it. All of your support helps. Speaking of which, if you want to help me out, be like JFlo, Grumpy Old Troll, and Gene W. I saw her here earlier. And support the channel with a little bit of a $2 donation via the membership tab. That is a great way to do it. Like to say hello to my good friend, Mr. Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. If you're not subscribed to my friend there, please go over there. He is one of my favorite voices on YouTube by far and away, and a generally good dude who I would one day like to really shake his hand. But that is your crisis report, friends. So, hit the buttons, darken up the bell, go have a wonderful Sunday. Tonight I'll probably do a nice little quick one to kind of wrap things up and add what's going on, as a lot of intel happens between 10, 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. out of all the European and Middle Eastern channels. So I'll have a nice little bit there. We love you. God bless you. And we'll see you.